Federal government commiserates with people of Zamfara State, assures them of commitment to tackling security challenges.
It's not acceptable by any government, particularly the government of Muhammad Buhari, because we have the responsibility to protect lives and properties of every citizen.
Chief of Air Staff promises to flush out bandits terrorizing Zamfara.
As Nigerian Air Force, we are going to activate a flying unit in Sokoto immediately so that they will support the operation from that angle.
Military seeks collaboration of the media in fight against terrorism.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall begin review of some of the editions of 2018. Now, with a few days to the end of the year 2018, Good Morning Nigeria will today begin review of some of our editions transmitted within the 1 year.
Of course, Kiran, this is in line with the tradition of the flagship program since its debut in 2014, and such tradition has been sustained over the years.
You're right, Jimmy. The year 2018 will not be an exception, as we are kicking off the annual review of Good Morning Nigeria with some episodes of the program today.
Kiran, you know, in today's edition, we shall bring you, among other editions, Agenda 2018, Public Infrastructure, Agricultural Outlook for 2018, the Health Sector in 2018, the Mission to Libya, and the Continental Campaign Against Corruption.
Well, indeed, Jimmy, these are just teasers. We'll bring a lot more in the 3 editions of Good Morning Nigeria to end the year 2018. I am Kiran Umayo. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria, which is coming to you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, of what's the largest TV network in Africa.
Exactly. And I'm Jumai Yusuf, and as usual, we shall present our companion segments, which include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign news. But first, let's take the morning news with Musbao Danwahab as our guide. Good morning, Musbao. How was your Christmas and Boxing Day holidays?
Yeah, good morning, Jumai, and it all went well at work. It's all good. Doing work during the holidays. That's what we've signed up to. Welcome to the news. President Muhammad Buhari is assuring people of Zamfara State of his commitment to the security of their lives and property. Minister of Interior Abdurrahman Dambazao delivered the president's assurance when he visited the state for an assessment of the security situation.
It's not acceptable by any government, particularly the government of Muhammad Buhari, because we have the responsibility to protect lives and properties of every citizen.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force unit's headquarters is to be upgraded immediately to full-fledged quick response group for coordination of the ongoing Operation Duran Mikia, aimed at flushing out armed bandits terrorizing the people of Zamfara State. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar announced this while on an assessment visit to Gusau, the state's capital.
Additional steps as Nigerian Air Force, we are going to activate a flying unit in Sokoto immediately so that they will support the operation from that angle. And I'm sure by the special grace of God, we should be able to add more value to what is currently going on here.
Well, while the military is fighting terrorism using guns, journalists are using their pen as weapon for the prosecution of a critical war. To achieve success in the quest to eradicate terrorism and other social vice, the military and journalists must unite and work closely in the fight against the global threats. This is the thrust of interactive session between the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, and media editors in Nigeria.
Of Nigeria as one indivisible and united corporate entity should be our topmost goal. The war against terrorism and insurgency need to be viewed and reported as it is. War between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and terrorists and criminals, not between the Nigerian army versus the Boko Haram terrorists.
Away from security matters, the Buhari organization says the donation of 1.7 billion naira to the Buhari campaign fund by rice farmers and fertilizer distributors is an assurance of 12 million votes for the president in next year's election. According to the organization, people who have enough confidence in a person to donate their widow's mites of 100 naira each to this re-election campaign fund will definitely vote for that person, both they and their friends and relations. The BMO, in a statement, appreciated the testimonies by rice farmers through their leadership that the Anchor Borers program has yielded more employment opportunities for their teeming youth in Nigeria, rice sufficiency to the Nigerian populace, and easy access to fertilizer. For fertilizer producers, government fertilizer initiative has saved the country 120 billion naira subsidy and crushed the price of fertilizers within the last 3 years. BMO says it believes that looking at the card-carrying members in both the rice farmers and fertilizers producing association, it can confidently say that President Buhari will get the votes of all members of the two associations. And that's the news beats of the program Good Morning Nigeria. Get more news subsequently in our bulletins. The program will continue with Kirian and Juma shortly after this break. Good morning.
Notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem promptly through revival of agriculture.
Is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime, we bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1, a delicious combination of rich cocoa and wholesome goodness of milk. Just add hot water to get an instant chocolatey treat that delights your senses. Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1. Just add hot water.
3G is great, 4G is better. You don't know what you're missing till you experience it. Buy an Airtel SIM to enjoy double data on Nigeria's widest 4G network.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils.
Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors.
Strepsils. Strepsils.
Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
The Candidates. A presidential town hall co-production between Daria Media and NTA, supported by the MacArthur Foundation. 4 presidential town halls, 4 political parties and their presidential and vice presidential candidates. 4 Wednesdays in January 2019, 9th, 16th, 23rd and 30th January, from 7 to 9 p.m. Town hall venue, Sheraton Hotel, Abuja. Moderator, Kadria Ahmed. The candidates will be broadcast live on NTA and other partner TV and radio stations, as well as streamed online on NTA and DTV.media. If you are over 18 and want to be part of the audience, apply online at daria.media or use the hashtag NGTheCandidates or participate online using the hashtag NGTheCandidates.
Thanks for joining us. Experts advocate improved funding for the eco-tourism sector. Chimobi Walter in Naji tells us more on business news.
Governments at all levels have been advised to make and implement policies that will further boost the potentials of the ecotourism sector in the country so as to ensure the sector contributes to the job creation and revenue generation in the country. The Deputy Director of Wildlife, Abuja National Children's Zoo and Park, Aminu Mohammed, said the sector has the potentials of providing the most needed support to the nation's GDP if properly encouraged by both government and the private sector.
Actually, if you look at it as it is, there is no place fooling visitors like zoos. If you look at the statistics, there is no any tourism industry pulling people just like zoos, because we have visitors every day. Even so, the potential is very enormous, because people only heard about animals. But the only place they can come and see them is in zoo. So our visitors are always expanding, and not only zoos. When we talk of ecotourism, it also goes to national parks, where I think we have about 7 national parks scattered all over in the country. We have them in the different geographical zones. We have them in the west, we have them in the southeast, we have them in the north and in the north central, whereby we have different animal species. But people don't care about going to those places because there isn't much investment.
In other stories, the mobile number portability activities carried out by telecommunications operations in the country have declined by 53% in the past 2 years. Data obtained from the Nigerian Communications Commission show that the industry recorded a total of 14,491 incoming and outgoing porting activities in November compared to 31,077 in November 2016. A mobile number portability was introduced by the NCC in 2013 to encourage competition and ensure that consumers continue to enjoy quality service on all the mobile networks. And that's business news at this time. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji.
Thank you, Chimobi, for that business package. And next on this program is Newspaper Review.
We'll now introduce Bayo Ayotibi, our newspaper reviewer this morning. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jume. Good morning. Good morning, Kyria.
Yeah, Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Jume, you may kickstart this. You have a leadership newspaper?
Yes, we have leadership newspaper. We have at the headlines, killings. Zamfara indigents beg FG to declare state of emergency. With a rider, 4,000 IDPs take refuge in Katsina. Killing will affect food security, says FG, as PMB sympathizes with the people. And we have police arrest suspected killers of ex-Chief of Defense Staff Badi. And below, we have the NMPC records 9.8 billion profit in September. That's on page 40. Benue impounds 105 cows over open grazing. No policeman abandoned fight against Boko Haram, the police say on page 2. And gunmen abduct 15 in Niger village, yes.
Okay, now to the new Telegraph for this one. Let's go above the nameplate of the newspaper. Now it says customs generates 1.1 trillion naira, remits 653.47 billion in 11 months. And now below the nameplate we'll have some headlines here. Extortion. DSS hands over Aisha Buhari's ADC to the police. It's on page 2. And now NMPC nets 225.5 billion naira from crude exports in 30 days. Page 6 has details of that story. And now APC PDP Bika over disruption of Ilori Emirate meeting. It's on page 2. Now 4 policemen rob Togo-based Nigerian of 350,000 CFAs. It's on page 8. Now, the lead headline on the New Telegraph newspaper this morning: why ex-Chief of Defense Staff Bade was killed. With 3 riders, police arrest suspected killers in Abuja and Nasarawa states. Land transaction money linked to murder. Page 2 and 6. Is where you get the story. Now, Zamfara killings will affect food security, says the federal government. Now, let's bring in Bayo here now.
Thank you, Kyrian. Well, the Nigerian Police Force says that it has made some arrests in the case of the murder of former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade. The police force is supposed to make some public pronouncements today. The former Chief of Defense Staff, it will be recalled 9 days ago, was killed when he was returning from his house. However, the New Telegraph has described the killing as a robbery that have gone on hourly. The paper says that its investigation indicate that 2 of the suspects have been arrested. And actually, there were 7 of them that were involved. And the paper is reporting that the victim had gone to have a land transaction with the villagers, and they had made an agreement. But because he was carrying money, the villagers asked him to return the next day so that they could take the money to the bank. However, the robbers, some robbers had got information about him conveying money. They set up a roadblock and stopped his vehicle. The driver did not stop. Among the 7 persons, 2 of them were said to be dressed in military uniform, and they fired at the vehicle, killing the former chief of defense staff and injuring his driver. However, a 3rd occupant in the car was abducted and taken away. Latest information indicates that he has been released, but there were no indications whether ransoms were paid or not. So by the time the police give the briefing today, details will now emerge. Will emerge. In Benue State, there has been a development about open grazing. Benue Livestock Guard have impounded about 105 cow and 4 sheep, and they were caught indulging in open grazing. The commander of the Livestock Guard of Benue State, Mr. Lionel Zaki, says the animals are to be quarantined for 7 days. However, after the 7 days, if the owners for the livestock do not come out to show up and pay the stipulated fine as required by law, the animals will be auctioned.
All right.
And on the Punch newspaper, in the Punch newspaper, under the nameplate, we have Yakoa Alamesia Akunyele's names on INEC register years after death. That's on page 2. And we have the picture of the cows that were arrested with the heather, and under the headlines. Open grazing, Benue arrests herdsmen, impounds 105 cows. That's on page 5. And under the picture message, we have FG to reduce issuance of short-term domestic debt instruments. That's on page 23. Christmas tragedies. Lagos hit and run driver kills family's only child. 3 die in Ogun auto crash. Family of 3 burnt to death in Edo. Pages 4 and 5. And we have pro-Buhari group says PDP's past will work against Atiku. That's on page 10.
Yeah, they're talking about the accidents recorded. Just yesterday, on this program, we had a chat with the FRC and, of course, the VIO, where we were asking them, about the data of accidents that have occurred within this Utah period because of the massive movement of people from cities to the hinterland. And now we are having a story on someone that killed a family's only son.
Yes. Sad development.
Very sad.
There were even a tanker explosion also that killed some 3 persons. And again, when you have the quantum of volume of traffic on the highway, more than expected because everybody is going homeward for celebration, the tendency is that because people are anxious and in a hurry, they give less attention to caution.
The word is in a hurry.
Yes, in a hurry. They get less attention to the caution. But the police have been making some bold stops too. In Lagos, 2 robbers, who specialize as a syndicate in attacking banks, had attacked somebody who withdrew 350,000 from the bank on the eve of Christmas. As he was going, they shot into the air and snatched the money from him and jumped onto a motorcycle. The guy raised an alarm and people chased him. Unfortunately, fear of being caught up They abandoned their motorcycle and run towards a police station. They were arrested at Ilasamaja police station. In fact, it was the police that saved them from being mobbed. And when they were
why did they run to
the police station there?
I can just imagine what would have happened to them if they've been caught.
In fact, the police had to save them from being mobbed. But guess what? When they were chased, Boniface Enwerem and Joseph, they said, well, we didn't intend to kill the man. We just wanted to take his money so that we have something to spend for Christmas.
All right, now let's go to the Daily Sun newspaper and get some stories there. And beside the nameplate, we have PDP, APC, trade wars over corruption war. Now let's go to the lead story on the Daily Sun this Thursday. Police nab killers of Bade ex-CDS. We have read that in other newspapers. And again, with the riders suspect to be paraded today. So all eyes are on the police to see who perpetuated that crime. And now, beside the photograph here, we have a Zamfara killing. Federal government raises fears over food production. It's on page 8. Now, Buhari retaining IGP to regale, that's from article spokesperson on page 7. Now, controversy over desertion in police with 2 riders. Policemen allegedly absconded from training in Yobe, but police says it is not true. The story is on page 5. Now, I'm interested in this story, the picture story, on the Daily Sun in the newspaper this morning, showing the Bini culture, an exhibition of Bini tradition, the festival. So, what may interest you is the regalia, and the the display of what we know the old Bini kingdom, to be. That's Oba of Benin Ewara II leading the procession of the palace for the celebration of 2018 Igwe Festival. All right. Sahara Energy Contract. I can't be blackmailed, says Wike. Well, that's all from Daily Sun. Bayo.
Yeah, well, the professor of mass communication, Professor Ralph Akinfeliye, has drawn attention of media owners to the need to ensure that priority is given to the welfare of their workers. The professor is lamenting that we have had that a situation where some workers in some media go for several months without salaries. He calls on the Nigerian Union of Journalists, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, and the Nigerian Guild of Editors to do more to protect the interests of members. He also observed that although there has been ownership pluralism, there have been absence of content pluralism. What does it mean? It means that there are many more stations, but local content, there is less content pluralism. That is to say, many stations still continue to have a preponderance of foreign programs rather than domestic programs. But the concern, however, is about the welfare, the well-being of journalists. Salary, some are owed 8 months, some 6 months. And sometimes people ask questions, why are they still on the job?
Yeah, it's still on the job because one has to make ends meet. There's no way you can leave a job without securing another one. And as journalism, of course, you are a journalist, and it's a profession of passion. People move into that profession because of passion. And when you don't have an alternative, you are bound to be there and see how you can, make ends meet in terms of paying your bills and taking care of your family responsibilities. So it's all part of it. So where do they go?
By the way, the managers of those newspapers.
Yeah.
So who is harming the journalists and not paying them? Maybe it's the environment, the market. There's no market for them to sustain. Presently, you hardly have any newspaper, for instance, that has a circulation figure beyond 100,000. Many of them are far, far less than that. And the economy, also, social media has come, eroded away their markets. And so something has to be done about the economic strategy for newspaper, particularly because the newspapers are worse hit than compared to the electronic media.
All right. Now, Bayo, let me take you back to these killings in Zamfara. What do you make of that? It's been on the news for a while, even when we had a kind of break, from stories, coming from Zamfara. But this time around, it's like they're up in the ante again with attacks on communities.
The killings is as a result of banditry, pure criminality. Now what you have is that people organize criminals, move in bands to villages, They go and surround the village and extort money from people and kill. In fact, sometimes they identified market days. You have places where market days are done every 5 days or every 7 days. They go, they know the specific market days, and they wait until when the traders have finished their trading, coming back in the evening, they will lead them so that they will take monies away from them. And I think the best thing, you could recall too, the governor of Zamfara State, there was a time he said he doesn't want to continue to be the chief security officer because of the challenges. But now, with the instructions by the commander-in-chief that the chief of air staff should relocate it there and they should find solution. I think with the combination of the support from the Air Force, with the police, and also the armed forces, they will be able to lead that endeavor. If you recall, there was a 3 states, the Northwest states, came together, involving the governors, to set up an operation, and that was what gave birth to Operation Sharandaji. But up till now, from that axis, Zamfara, up to Funtua, up to Birnengwari, the crises are still there. There was a guy who called himself Buhari Ndaji, apparently declaring himself as the president of the forest there. Luckily, he had been eliminated some time ago, but the banditry and his cohorts are still there.
Yeah, well, it sounds so organized because of their persistence. And
yes, Kieran, because a lot of money, you know, you can't imagine the amount of money that circulates during market days. You know, there's money in the villages. There are farmers, there are cattle rearers, they have money. So when they take their cattle to the market, spend a lot of, you know, people buy it as much as 315,000 naira per cattle.
And they
so
pay
if somebody,
cash
pay cash. So if somebody buys 3 cattle from you, you can imagine how much you're taking home. And you know, most of these people don't believe in banks, putting their money in the banks.
They're not bankable.
So they're easy targets for these bandits, actually.
All right, now to the editorials this morning, taken from the Daily Independent. Correcting Nigeria's balance of payment problems. The setback suffered by Nigeria's balance of payment in the 3rd quarter of 2018 once again establishes the fact that the country is an import-dependent economy. And it also brings to the fore the need to build an export-oriented and well-diversified economy. Ultimately, a balance of payments problem is a foreign exchange problem, a revenue problem, and an economic growth problem.
Yes, before I go to that, can I quickly draw attention to this human interest story? A 40-year-old woman organized a wedding for her chicken named Beyonce and a rooster named Mayflower. She found that the chicken was injured and had a broken leg, and after it was mended, a hen was constantly in the rooster's company. So she organized a wedding for them, creating an altar, and she put a gown on the rooster and also put a parrot on the hen. And Mr. and Mrs. Mayflower were married. She posted.
Why Beyonce and Mayflower?
That is the name she gave to them. She posted it on the social, and some people were even weeping in sympathy of her generosity to the chickens. They are lucky the chickens were not in Nigeria during Christmas.
Of course, by now they would be somewhere else.
Now the editorial. The balance of payments simply mean that you have a challenge in the situation whereby you pay more of your foreign exchange for imports than you earn foreign exchange from the export. And therefore, you suffer that deficit. And the balance of payment deficit we suffered, and the editorial is referring to, is that of the 3rd quarter, where our gross domestic product dropped to 1.81%. And inflation, incidentally, also increased. It was dropping gradually. It reached 11.26. And hope was that by the year's end, we were hoping to get to a single-digit inflation rate. But it went up again about 11.28%. And the tendency for it to come down might not be too soon, because if the new minimum wage is paid early in the year, you can imagine what the contribution it will make to inflation. But meanwhile, the advice by the editorial is that government should continue with the diversification. First, the impact is that of agriculture. We are making impact, but it is not strong enough compared to the oil. And what the editorial is emphasizing that we should now look at tourism, particularly looking at the impact that it has made and helped countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. It is a gold mine that is waiting to be tapped. And we have several. Earlier on, you were mentioning Igwe Festival that is going on. Carnival Kadaba is going on now. And so there are several potential sites for tourism, and it has the ability to earn us a lot of foreign exchange.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bayo.
Thank you too.
It's a pleasure having you always.
Thank you.
Good Morning Nigeria continues in a moment. Don't go away.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
In line with the vision of promoting probity, accountability and transparency in the management of public funds, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation has unveiled Compendium on Fiscal Rectitude in Government.
The Treasury Journal that we've recently launched dwells largely on the operations of the Treasury, and in particular the reform initiatives that we drive as the Treasury, namely the Treasury Single Account, the IFSAS implementation, the IPPS, and a host of others.
Very incisive and educating. Grab a copy of the Treasury Journal from your vendor and get abreast with financial transactions such as monthly allocations within the federal, state, and local governments, Buhari's transformation policy on the Treasury, inroads to IGR, and many more mixed grilling stories. Remember, the Treasury Journal is a dependable ally for researchers, financial institutions, the academia, and policymakers. Treasury Journal, a fiscal rectitude in managing public funds.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils. Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three
You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
Welcome.
You take that one.
Yeah, take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Momo to come to chocolate rice made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made. Correct. And how they are cook it. Correct. Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We thank you for staying with us up to this moment. Now, to start our special edition of the program on the 3rd of January 2018, Good Morning Nigeria discussed Agenda 2018, Public Infrastructure. Claire and Blessing anchored the program on that day. Let's see some excerpts.
Can you give us a little brief of what you have prescribed in it for 2018?
We need so much money. As a matter of fact, we need about 30 trillion naira to spend on our infrastructure on an annual basis if we are to get to where we should be. But even our budget, the totality of our budget is not anything close to that. So whatever we have provided as the sum for investment in infrastructure is just a pittance. However, there must be a decision to say, okay, a commitment to say we want to invest in infrastructure and we'll take it one at a time. I think what the government, from the president's speech, the decision to concentrate on a certain infrastructure is quite apt. To invest in some roads, take some critical roads and deal with them, take the ongoing rail projects and complete them, and then invest in power. Those are the areas that we need to, the things we need to do.
Senator Ebrigaya,
yes, please.
What are those imperatives on delivering infrastructure for economic development, such as a country like ours?
There are issues which you have to take into consideration. One, for an investor to come in and invest into infrastructural projects, there must be an act to guide them and give them strength to perform and then recover their money easily. The ICRC we had, which is couldn't have a strong act to be able to assist investors to invest in Nigeria. So recently I have to sponsor a bill, which is the Federal Road Authority. And that encompasses the role which the investors can enjoy the act or the law and be protected by the law, and then the Nigerian government will also be protected by the law. That bill has been on the drawing board for over 40 years. There are many Bible roads, vital roads, or roads that are Bible, like Lagos, Ibadan, Kano, Abuja, some other roads which we believe you can go for concessions. Even Lokoja, Benin, Lokoja, Abuja, people are interested in financing those projects. But there is no act to that effect. So with this act signed into law, it means we give people the opportunity, or the investors the opportunity, to come and invest in Nigeria. Because the government cannot be able to finance 34,000 kilometers of federal roads.
What do you see differently from what you have there and what Nigeria has been able to do with its own level of infrastructure?
In terms of Canada, what we're doing separately or what we're doing differently compared to Nigeria is in Nigeria we train engineers, architects to design bridges, to design houses, to design whatever form of infrastructure that we need. But one thing that we lack in Nigeria that we're doing here differently in Canada is how to manage the assets, your built infrastructures, your bridges, your hospitals, your civil works, your underground gas lines, your storm sewers. So what we're doing here is, in my lifetime, I might not design a bridge, but I will have to manage that bridge after it's built by maybe Julius Berger. So what we do here is we look at the life cycle asset management. You look at the planning. You have to focus. What do you need? What does every department in the government agencies, what do they need? What does the Federal Ministry of Aviation need? What does the Ministry of Education need? So at every government level, at the municipal level, that's the local government, at the state level, at the federal level, you have to look at what do you need. So the first part is about you planning what you need. Is there a gap? Is there a deficit? You have to forecast in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, what do you need? Then you have to look at how you have to acquire those assets to meet your needs.
What model would we, prescribe to fund our infrastructure?
We need to look inwards and depend on ourselves and believe in ourselves. And that's why I commend what the President Buhari is doing concerning local content. It is important that you use your people and your resources to deliver whatever you want to do, particularly infrastructure. Over the years, and this is just to answer the question that was earlier asked when I finished speaking last time, that what are the Nigerian engineers doing?
What are they up to?
Yes, what are they up to? Over the years, what we have been up to is that we've been telling government, advocating, that what you are going to Sokoto to look for is inside your Sokoto. That means the expertise you are looking for abroad, they are here at home. Use your people to deliver. These engineers are well trained. We are well trained to deliver these things. Where there are skill gaps, we know how to acquire them.
Under what arrangement?
Under government allowing us to give us the challenge. That's the arrangement.
Are you saying the government is not giving you the opportunity to?
Yes. Over the years, that's what has been happening. People come here and profit. See, look, it is not good for a foreigner to come and do contracts in Nigeria, to be responsible for executing contracts, particularly, infrastructure contracts. I cannot go to that foreigner's country and do the same thing, no matter how brilliant I am.
Like the issue of bringing so many engineers from another country, and architects and others. Well, we have some on the ground. Why do you have to do that? So I think the government must cooperate and respect the laws.
It's very, very important to look inwards. Just like one of the speakers who was talking about models. You can import a model and move out the ingredient out of the model. Then put in the ingredient that suits your culture, your climate, your temperature, your people. You can do that, and you can use the model to develop roads, to develop bridges, to construct roads, to develop machines in the hospitals, and so many other things.
Very interesting topic indeed.
Yes.
Juma, you realize that most of the infrastructure in this country, name it, bridges, roads, and some critical structures in terms of building, like are done by foreign companies. And from what Kunle Mukulu just said, the president of Nigerian Society of Engineers, is that Nigerians have not been given the opportunity to do that. But what about the machinery involved here? Earth-moving machines required to do all of that. When it comes to the technicalities, I can vouch for Nigerian engineers. But when it comes to the issue of having the facilities to get the job done, that's another story.
Yeah, I think it's all about interest and bottlenecks, because if they are given the encouragement to design, build these infrastructures, believe me, our engineers are up to par with the foreigners.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, and agriculture is one of the agenda of this present administration. The agricultural outlook for 2018 also captured the attention of Good Morning Nigeria, and the program was presented by Claire and Rhoda on the 4th of January.
With regards to crop production, what can be done, to attain a 2018 target for the country?
Agriculture today is not what it used to be. It used to be 90% agriculture and 5% science. Today, it's 98% science and only 2% energy. So, and that's why what we need to start looking at is the scientific part. That's why I was excited about Dr. Emeka's position as bringing in the Ministry of Technology and marrying them with the Ministry of Agriculture, working together to achieve that goal, working with the Ministry of Water Resources. All of these need to come together for us to improve on our yield. We have very good land, but we are one of the lowest yielding countries in the world in terms of agriculture. That is being addressed right now, but it can be further accelerated if we bring coordination between all the various ministries, see them all as assets for agriculture. So these are things that the federal government needs to do at its own level. We also are glad that people who were never involved in agriculture are now coming in. So you're having retired judges, retired professors, in fact, practicing doctors, lawyers, and so on coming in with the knowledge they've gotten from their various professions, but adding to it the agricultural street sense to move it forward. So the quality of people coming to agriculture today to complement our forefathers who have done so well, our uncles and so on, who still remain about 90% of those producing food for us, is a very good and welcome development. However, the young ones must come in learning from what mistakes have been made by the older ones. Do not come in and disappoint yourself, because there's enough information today to ensure that you don't make mistakes that those who were there before you made.
Let's bring in Mr. Kadiri Lekon. The Ministry of Agric is actually working, especially this year, to roll out some plans to improve the agricultural industry. I'd like to know from you what those plans are.
One of the things the ministry intends to do this year is actually to see how we can increase our production. For example, cashew. As at last season, as at last year, for example, our production was about 170,000 metric tons. And you discover that most portion of the middle belt and part of southwest and even southeast, they are very suitable for cashew production, for example. And so Nigeria can make millions of dollars from this particular value chain alone. And for cashew, you just, like I said, there's a program that is running in the ministry this year. We also call it, apart from being a plantation program, we also call it Invent Your Future. I used to tell people in my office, I said, if I had planted maybe 10 or 20 hectares of oil palm, since I left the university in the 80s, for example, I don't think I would have been in the Ministry of Agriculture today. Actually, I would have been, I would have been somewhere else doing something else today. Because why? You plant this crop, and for the next 30 years, it keeps giving you produce. It keeps giving you money. The same thing with cocoa. You plant cocoa, and for the next 30 years, the thing keeps giving you money.
Let's look at wheat production. If we have done so well in rice production, and we've been able to say that in 2018, we are actually going to stop exporting rice, has it made locally produced rice cheaper than the imported ones? You know why? Because everything that goes into that production of that rice is imported, from machinery to pesticides to insecticides to packaging to storage. So it's important you know where your cost, what you call your hidden costs, are coming from. So it is not enough to say we did 300,000 metric tons of wheat, 300,000 metric tons of this, and then by the end of the day, you're not able to sell. In fact, if you allowed the foreign rice to come in, they sell almost 20% or 40% cheaper than what it is you're selling after transportation, after storage, after tax, after inland movement and all that. It is because this very critical aspect of it, which is technology, we are overlooking it.
Do you see a prospect for, greenhouse agriculture in Nigeria from, with your experience so far?
I do actually, because, for example, if you go to ShopRite, some of the tomatoes that are imported sell for over 1,000 naira, and they're imported. And I produce the same tomato, and I sell to my off-takers for a lot lower than that. I'll just say that, a lot lower than that. So, I mean, the more people that come into the business, I mean, I have high hopes for greenhouse farming.
I want more collaboration between government and the farmers and those in the agricultural value chain. I want to see a situation where whatever government policies are discussed with the private sector first, so that they can input into it and increase the quality of government policies. We also have to face 2018 with a brave face from government. Government needs to say to itself, we have the courage to invest in agriculture in terms of subsidy, like what is doing in other countries, the rice and so on that are coming in our countries. Nigeria needs to compete, and then Nigeria must have the courage to say, we too will subsidize to be able to fight them back.
What do you hope to see in 2018 in the
well,
sector?
let me look at the dairy sector. because, I mean, we didn't talk about it. And I'll give you a story with Brazil.
Very briefly.
Yes, please. Brazil had a population of 179 million people and invested one car against each of those people by building what you call cattle integrators. And Brazil became the largest producers of cheese and every other thing that was coming out of cattle. We cannot do ranching in Nigeria because 80% of the cattle that is in Nigeria are not owned by one person, are not even owned by Nigerians. Nigeria is a cattle route. If we start an integrator system where a government like Benue State puts in 10 billion, and what is that 10 billion? Every cattle that can be bought by. It's only when you own that you ranch. If that is the way to go, that will be my last word. For yams, let us not look at yam as food. Let us look at yam as pharmaceutical grade starch. That way, we'll be making more foreign inputs.
You were saying that foreign tomatoes are being sold in our shops. One day, someone will begin to import water into the country. But of course, something good has, of course, taken place in the agricultural sector. I was gladdened to hear that one of the transporter companies refused to transport foreign rice from Abuja to the east. And that's interesting. All right, now let's go to health. Health, they say, is wealth, and that's why Good Morning Nigeria on the 8th of January 2018 beamed the spotlight on the challenges and prospects of the health sector. Kinsley and Claire presented the program that day. Now let's see some excerpts from it.
Over the years, because of the huge infrastructural deficit in the healthcare sector, Nigerians have developed a very negative habit of, seeking medical treatment, when they come down with one form of ailment or the other, until such ailment, has advanced. Are we now seeing a change in habit, by Nigerians?
It's a major issue, and several things are responsible. One is our attitude and understanding of disease processes. Nigerians do not believe in what we consider to be the pathologic basis of diseases. Nigerians believe in some other factor being responsible. You can't do away with this. Even when people have cancer, they still tell you something else. When people have accidents, they tell you it's something else. And this has affected the health-seeking behavior of Nigerians.
There are reasons why they do that.
No, let's get there. And also, people have aversion. Unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle. If you have cancer today, many of the cancers are late cancers, stages 3 and 4. Anywhere in the world, go to US, go to Japan, if you walk into a facility with stage 4 cancer, there's nothing that will be done. Nothing. Not anywhere. No magic. Unfortunately, they come into the facility with stage 3 and 4. Few months, they die. They then tell you, oh, don't go there, because they have no solution. And to me, that fuels this crisis. There are also problems. One is the attitude of healthcare professionals. We also don't engage well, and we are looking into this. We're working on how to improve quality of care. We've just done a study with the Bureau of Public Service Reform, and it takes about 3 hours to see a doctor in a public health facility. We're addressing this. We're trying to look at phased approaches. Can we give them appointments in phases? But what is also important is that we need to build the system in totality. A situation in which people walk straight into a tertiary care will not help us. There is no reason why anybody with malaria should walk into a national hospital. There is no reason why somebody with diarrhea and vomiting should walk to a national hospital. They should go to a primary care.
So what are we saying now with regard to the revival of the primary health care centers, which is part of your RRR, that is to say Rapid Result Initiative?
Well, like I said, we're doing well with this. It's also something that has to be done collectively with state government, with local government, and at the last count, we have quite a number of our international partners also supporting us. The British government, through DFID, is supporting about 950 of the PACs in the northern states. The EU is going to work on 774. World Bank is working on 1,400. For us under the RI, we said let's start with 110.
From your perspective, how well are we as a people?
First of all,
how well could we be?
There's a general reawakening of modern medicine. More and more people are literate enough to look not at the negative side of what's behind this disease, like is it the witchcraft or something. More and more people are aware of medical exploits. The force of the private sector during that period, to me, is looking at what Nigerians run abroad for. Like you talk of kidney diseases, you talk of cancers, you talk of heart problems, you talk of fertility issues. There is a growth in that sector too within the country. Not just growth in numbers, but growth in confidence. So you can see where I'm coming from when I'm saying on the one side, the government looking globally at us as a community and our health, and the private sector looking at us more on individual basis, create the best condition and environment for that person.
The National Health Act makes a provision for the allocation of at least 1% of the Consolidated Revenue Fund, but this is yet to be fully implemented at the federal level. But what we're trying to do is to develop what we call the proof of concept. And that proof of concept is being funded by the Global Financing Facility, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and hopefully DFID, as we roll it out. We want to kickstart this by offering basic care funded federally to poor Nigerians. And we want to target about 8 million people to start with, making sure that we deliver free care, basic care to them. And this to me, if we are able to pull this through and we succeed, will be this single largest, most important social program in this country till date, because we'll be taking care of our people, poor people. We will also be building on the insurance model, because we'll be paying for services. We'll be giving money to the facility so that those facilities can improve. And some of those things we complain about, oh, the APAC, they have no staff, oh, the place is run down, this will become a thing of the past. We're kickstarting it in some of our states, and we are hoping that with lessons learned, we'll be able to roll out. The Senate Committee on Health is also working on making health insurance compulsory, and working together with them, because there is a strong interest in the presidency in rolling out health insurance across the country. So working together with the Senate Committee on Health, we hope to be able to improve health insurance in the country, and also generate more resources, broaden the scope of coverage, so that Nigerians can benefit. The whole essence of universal coverage is to ensure that we offer financial protection to our people.
Indeed, health is wealth, and I think the health sector, Kieran, should be a focus of this administration. And the brain drain of doctors from Nigeria is also a factor.
Yes, and I think the thing about health infrastructure in Nigeria, you know, for over the years, we've lacked specialist hospitals, you know, in the real word of it, in the real sense of it, in terms of having a hospital that specializes in heart surgery, for instance,
cancer.
in the cancer, for instance. So we don't have such specialists. So that is why, one, there's brain drain. Two, people go for health, you know, tourism. So that's why. But with the trend now, you know, with what the government has in store for now, I think that would be an improvement.
Indeed, Kieran. Now, following media reports on the enslavement of Nigerian migrants in Libya, the federal government constituted a fact-finding team headed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to, among other objectives, identify the irregular Nigerian migrants in Libya with a view to evacuating them back to Nigeria to unite with their families. Good Morning Nigeria, anchored by Claire and Kinsley on the 10th of January 2018, discussed the mission to Libya. Let's take a look.
Let's begin the conversation with the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Tell us, if you like, experience was like on this apparently traumatic visit to Libya to see Nigerians who've been enslaved. Thousands of them, we understand.
It was really, I would say, bittersweet. In a way, because bitter to see such young children in such terrible condition, you know, and also, of course, the narrative of what was happening to them, you know, the physical abuse, the sexual exploitation, and so on and so on. The sweet part was, as I told them, I probably have never felt so proud to be a Nigerian, because you saw these children in such difficult conditions who had really gone through the worst kinds of trauma you can imagine. And yet, when we arrived at the biggest center, there were about 350 of them. They were all seated outside. They all rose in unison as we arrived and stood and sang the national anthem with such passion and such pride, you know. It brought tears to our eyes. And, you know, and also the national pledge. And then the way they comported themselves, the dignity, the respect, you know, in such difficult circumstances. So that was really very moving, but also a source of pride in that sense. Then, of course, the negotiations with the government was tricky. You know, we had to be very deft in our negotiation, because, of course, they were still you know, in a vulnerable position, and we were mindful of that. So it required a lot of, you know, diplomacy, and but at the same time firmness. We had to make it clear to them that we cannot accept our citizens being treated in any ways that were short of what was required under international conventions.
There are various allegations of abuse and you know, they use forced labor and so on and so forth. Who runs? Who is in charge of
the camps we saw, the camps we were allowed to go into, are run by the Libyan government, and I think it's under the Ministry of Interior, Minister of Interior. So yeah, so those are run by. There are some camps that are run by various militia groups, but these particular camps that were in control, under the control of the Libyan government, were being run by the Libyan government.
All right. Back again to the Honourable Minister. Just before the Honourable Minister, you were talking about the extent of the scope of the mandate of the mission to Libya. Is there a sense of accomplishment on this, shall we say, first visit?
Yes, I think so, because, as I said, the nature of the delegation, which is sort of comprehensive in its coverage, I think there is that sense of accomplishment, because I think we have a clearer vision now of what we need to do in tackling this. I think maybe in the past there might have been an element of just bringing...
Bagi, Calabar and Yoruba group added color to the event. points of the event was the presentation of awards to over 40 deserving soldiers for discipline and dedication to duty. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
Thank you very much, Francis Form, for that report. It is always very inspiring when honor is given to whom it is due. Moving on now, the creme de la creme of Abia communities were in attendance to pay last respect to one of their own, Elder Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe. Elder Ndukwe was a presiding elder of the St. Peter's Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. Umungazi Abba Ikechukwu Ndukwe was there.
His 84 years of life was replete with achievements both at home and in business. Little wonder the burial attracted dignitaries in politics and in business. Late Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe was the chairman of many successful businesses. Father of 7, late Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe was known for supporting God's work. As a ruling elder, he spurred other church members in embarking on both church and the community projects, which earned him the nickname Ujuje, which means forward ever. In his sermon, prelate of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, NZNCK, charged Christians to emulate the qualities of late Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe, who was known for his philanthropy and inspiring leadership. While lowering the remains of late Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe to Mother Earth, the prelate reminded Christians of the need to live an impactful life, as what matters after life is what the living can remember about someone after he might have passed on. Some of his children and in-laws shared their moments with late Ndukwe Agu Ndukwe.
The added blessing upon his life is that he knew Christ and he served Christ. He was indeed God's soldier. And today, as we listen to testimonies in church, it became clear to us that we've got a legacy we have to build on. Those of us that are associated with him now have the burden of exceeding all that he achieved.
He's always peaceful. He's someone that is loving, someone that always exudes joy around him, and he's willing to teach and correct. So I learned a lot from him, especially in being able to do the right thing. I'll miss him.
Today was a very hard day, and as I mentioned in my tribute, I lost my father about 7 years ago, and it was an incredible vacuum that I never thought would be filled. But my father-in-law did just that. He exceeded my expectations. He showed me love that it would take a lifetime to fill.
I miss his laughter. I miss his name hailing. I miss his presence, his love. I just miss him, everything about him, his essence. Yes.
The good work that he did within the community and just helped so very many people in the community. So I guess it's just the extent and breadth and depth of his love for really everyone that has just really impacted on me. And I just feel so blessed to have known him.
The event shifted to the entertainment ground, where guests were treated to musical displays and meals. Among dignitaries that graced the occasion were the Deputy Governor of Abia State, Saudo Okochukwu, and the governorship candidate of All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA, Dr. Alex Oti. From Abreba in Ohafia local government area of Abia State, Ikechukwu Ndukwe.
May the soul of the departed rest in peace. It's on that note that we draw the curtain on this episode of the program. Many thanks for being a part of it. I am Glory Ekanem. Compliments of the season.
Yes, it be like say they want to tell us another story again, yo. Now so, you know, say people they say I'm the superstar. But for me, the real superstars are those people where they go vote for the candidate of their choice without violence. So for this upcoming election, be my superstar. Vote. No fights. No violence. Because the election will be won. We work together so the future will be brighter.
My name is Mrs. Ajala Olushola. I'm one of the food vendors for the school, homegrown school feeding. This is where I do my cooking every morning before I take the food to school. I heard of it from the media. It was announced that those who are interested should apply. And I applied for it, I was screened, then I was chosen to serve. Then the financial aspects of it, I now benefit from it, unlike when I was idle at home. Apart from that, the homegrown school feeding has exposed me to meeting a lot of people. Thereby, my own business as a caterer can now increase, where I'm now connected to a lot of people.
Yes. Oh. Now my dirty they smell like this. Now to throw away am quick. This kind smell fit make man sick. That woman throw away dirty for ground. Myself go do the same this time around. Hold up.
See, to do this kind badness by the book, you make sure say person know the look. And then you drop them nicely, bros. Nothing will happen. Trust me.
See, if you throw away dirty for ground, another person say throw away dirty. Everybody can begin to throw away dirty for ground. Everywhere go call the smell. Gutter go block, road go block, and you will like to the dab. I say no more dabbing for you, be that too. Dab, 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 dab. Yes.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.